One.
And we are live, I hope. Well, I guess it's time to start. Thank you very much for joining us today. Let's give a couple of minutes for everyone to join. And to everyone who is here today already, please write in the chat if you can see and hear us well. And also, please let us know where are you watching us from today. Me, for example, I am right now in Portugal, and my name is Maria, and I will be your host today. I'm very, very grateful for finding time to join us for dxTechTalk Design Day online. And yeah, let me know where are you watching us from. Hello, Ricardo Miranda. Thank you very much for joining us. Hello from rainy Amsterdam. Wow. Welcome, welcome. Speaking of the weather, hello from Guimarães, from Maria João. Hello, hello. So Guimarães is also in Portugal. We're welcoming so many wonderful people from all over the world. Yes, and it is great to have an opportunity to meet people from every corner of the world for such a wonderful opportunity to share knowledge and share expertise about such a wonderful and creative field as design, especially in the tech area. Let me check the chat once again. Oh, we have people from Cyprus. We have people from Estonia, from Sofia, Bulgaria. Hello, Nelly. Very nice to meet you. I hope you're going to have a wonderful time today because we have a lot of things to discuss. Two wonderful, very professional speakers from Dev Experts and the topics that you don't want to miss. So I guess we are ready to start. And let me introduce myself once again. My name is Maria. I am hosting the event from Portugal. And I am happy to welcome you at dxTechTalk, a series of free tech meetups organized by international fintech company Dev Experts. We specialize in the development of financial software solutions and services for the global capital markets industry. Our company was founded in 2002, so it's been like more than 20 years, and the company has R&D centers in different corners of the world, in Jersey City, the US, in Portugal, Vilnius, Tbilisi, Sofia, Istanbul, and some other places. We have a lot of R&D centers with a lot of wonderful professionals that are ready to share their expertise on dxTechTalk events. So we launched this project to be in touch with the tech community and share expertise in fintech and discuss our projects, technologies, and of course tools. In the ever-changing world of technologies, it is extremely, extremely important to share knowledge because the standards are changing, the industry is evolving, and this is extremely important to be in the loop. So we have offline tech communities in Portugal, Bulgaria, Georgia, and Turkey, and we organize online meetups like this one. So all of the dxTechTalk meetups recordings are on our YouTube channel, which you're watching right now. So don't be shy and subscribe to our channels and put your likes and watch the videos with the latest technology reviews. And also follow us on social media on meetup.com, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn to stay in touch and learn about the upcoming events. So today our program is as follows. We have two talks around 20 minutes each. Feel free to use our chat on YouTube to ask your questions. We'll have a Q&A session after each talk. So, after that, we're going to discuss everything all together. And if we have more questions coming about this or that talk, we're going to discuss them as well. So I guess it's time to start. So Let's give a warm welcome to our first speaker, Natalia Ilina, who is going to give us tips and tricks for those working for startups or projects with chaotic processes and communication. Well, it sounds very, very challenging because I am a nervous person myself and I really like the structure, and working for a startup is always an adventure. Natalia, how are you feeling today? Are you ready to present?
Hi Maria, hi guys. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited, so nervous, so totally understand you. Yeah, I hope we'll do our best. So I'm good.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be okay because you're used to working in the uncertainty, especially when it concerns the working with startups. But before you start, tell me, where are you now and how is the weather?
Well, we are falling into winter style. I am now in Sofia, Bulgaria. Um,
Mm-hmm.
this is my permanent residence. I just honestly desperately waiting for the winter, the snow. I
Oh,
do snowboarding and just counting days.
well, as I saw in the chat, we have a lot of people from Sofia today. So I think
Yeah.
all the people from Sofia, especially the snowboarders, are also praying for the winter now. But not going to take any more of your time. Please share your screen, and we're ready to go. The floor is yours.
Yep, let's go. So, guys, can you see my screen? Is everything okay? Can you hear me well? Okay, so welcome everyone once again. My name is Natalia Ilina, and today I'd like to walk you through my story, what is actually going on in startups. And for the next approximately 25 minutes, I'm gonna to share with you how to design for startup projects, and we'll give you some tips for working with uncertainty, which is inevitably following startups, but more about this later. Couple words about me. I'm a senior interface designer at the Experts company. I have over 5 years experience in the field. I have scientific background, which I strongly believe helps me to bring analytical perspective to my UX work. Um, my expertise lies in crafting fintech apps mostly, and I'm passionate advocate for human-oriented design. Um, I constantly seek the way how to improve user experience and really care about it. So who might find today's topic interesting? And I strongly believe that this topic will be interesting for first, newly formed teams, second, for startup projects, and teams who are seeking clarity and efficiency in their processes. At the first part, I will tell you why I actually entered into startup. Um, in the middle, I will give you the picture comparison, my expectations and reality that happened to me, and will give you the takeaways that I gained thanks to my experience there. So, why do we actually like startups? So, I'm on an IT community where is a romantic image of a startup as an opportunity to become a part of the project, where a limited team, group of people create something from scratch where it's never existed and probably has great potential to grow. As most of you likely know that every 9 out of 10 startups fail, unfortunately. But I found another interesting statistic, which is this, that in USA in 2022, 33.2 million startups were registered. And this number is an actual increase of 700,000 of startups compared to previous year, which is in this case, 2021. Wow, what an impressive numbers for such a low percentage of survivors and such a big percentage of failure. What is going on? So what are the key factors that attract people to join startup projects? Maybe it's escape from repetitive work. Maybe it's opportunity to unleash creative thinking. Maybe it's a strong desire to be a part of possible IT unicorn. And I can clearly imagine why designers and developers make this choice. Let's take someone like me. When I worked on enterprise level projects, I remember my workflow was monotonously stable and quite predictable. And I really considered joining projects like startup with this startup vibe, at least, where I could unleash my creativity, where I can challenge myself, where I can contribute into creating something really tangible, really valuable to transform just raw idea on the paper to something really tangible. So that by that time, that was my perception of working at startup. And 2 years ago, I got an invite to join a fintech startup as a UX designer. And this startup was based on the blockchain technology, and like, wow, very trendy. But as I said before that, at my projects, normally responsibilities were clearly defined, requirements were very explicit, workload well planned in advance. And by that time, I found this a bit tedious, to be honest. And so that's why I just happily accepted this invitation. Initially, my vision was quite clear. I would build a new design system, a brand new project with valuable assistance of my team members. It seemed to me like a walk in the park. But, however, the reality of working at startup was quite different with what I actually expected. Um, so I usually communicated with analysts with my previous project, and the analyst, there's a team member who provided clear requirements, who was caring about communication with client and clarifying requirements with them and presenting the ideas. And I never ever directly presented my designs to the client. The analyst was responsible for this. By the way, next speaker will be my colleague Natalia. She's an analyst, and she will give you the picture from her perspective as an analyst, as professional analyst. So stay tuned. um, so I realized that being the only designer in the project with no analyst, I had to work on two large applications. Uh, First was a user application that was supposed to be responsive on the most popular platforms, from the very small, it's mobile device, to the very large, like largest desktop and TV. And the second application was admin portal with its own design system, with its own components, its own logic, but definitely connected to the main app. And every request to design something for this main user application implied that another features were supposed to be built for this admin portal with some logic related to this main app. And it was long, arduous journey from the very first scratch of the pen on the paper till our production release. So how it began? Our MVP. Initially, my team was focused on building MVP version, and we had a quite clear vision of how we're going to develop, how we're going to deliver, what we're going to deliver, and everything was just fine. But however, as we approached the product release, our client unexpectedly for us requested numerous changes. We altered color palette, we redesigned an appearance of pages. We shifted business focus and even modified some business logic. And at some point, we found ourselves needing to refactor components, to build new features, and basically redesign in a very short time frame. After hearing the news about the product redesign, I realized that previous mockups were no longer suitable. They just didn't work. And for me, it required to build a new component, and basically we essentially needed to create a new project file. Moreover, we had to temporarily bring in two additional designers to speed up this process to help me. And we could easily drown under a ton of these corrections. But despite the many changes that occurred, I must admit that one approach helped me to not being overwhelmed by all these changes. And eventually, with a small design team, these two guys who helped me, we managed to incorporate all visual changes within a short time frame, like 3 weeks. We did it. And this approach is thinking about your components strategically. what do I do? At the very beginning of the design process, I try to envision the life cycle of components I designing in a distant future, where the most challenging scenarios can occur, such as scaling, incorporating new logic. And in this particular project, I was 99% sure that this change would happen. So what do? I prioritize utility and flexibility of components. And you'd probably ask me, like, seriously, are you psychic? Can you see the future? Well, not exactly, and I'll explain. For example, if I have a data tile with metric that I need to design for a small viewport, like mobile device, I ask myself, will this component be useful and applicable elsewhere in the app? Can I make it generic? Can I use it somewhere else? Can I easily integrate new elements and controls into it? And I think about the option to easily change the layout for this component. And I analyze its proportions in order to be ensured that most type of components will fit into. And of course, I care about whether this component will be accessible for different kind of users. And this approach has three potential benefits. First is a uniform appearance. Your users won't be distracted by constant encountering new appearance of components and layouts as navigating your app from page to page and learn the app. Consistency, especially important in fintech blockchain related apps where users should already have some basic knowledge of the field. And by providing uniform appearance to them, for them, designer can make like live users easily. Users can recognize easily and predict the potential behavior of component because they kind of familiar with this component already, with its appearance at least. And hopefully users can accomplish the goals more with ease or easily. So, and last but not least, this approach of having one universal component, one extended component for logically similar or potentially similar data also benefits the development process. And as a result, my team made a refactoring of this component, visual refactoring. We managed to remain the same logic, but it took us quite short period of time, again, like approximately 3 weeks. So another interesting thing I want to tell you about that was quite challenging for me, to be honest. So during the design process, I had to personally present my design ideas to the client without any help of project manager or analyst. I had to gather the business requirements, make sure my ideas match the client expectations. I also had to confirm with developers that my solution was doable. So, and this it required from me getting into technical details of how specific features would work, like what components we need to develop, whether we could use the existing library or like build a new component from scratch, and what technical limitations we have to consider. And I needed to be really persuasive and give a strong presentation during our weekly meetings with clients. And after, I had to listen carefully their feedback, take it on board, and next week we'll get back the solution and my corrections. And somewhere in the middle of this basically endless design performance, I bumped into a quite obvious idea. And this idea is so simple, it perhaps not emphasized enough in design school. This idea about practicing pitching ideas. I realized that I needed to pitch in my game. I realized that design mockups alone doesn't always communicate a full story. Design mockups is just assets. I catch a visual demonstration of my speaking performance, and my goal was to make it as compelling as possible to the client. And here is my greatest takeaway: to know how to sell your ideas. From my experience, I strongly believe that this is a rule of thumb, being a good designer. I remember a time when new team members were joining the project, and by the time no codified business requirements were available elsewhere, and my designs served as a main source of information to them. And that means I had to constantly communicate with developers and QA engineers to make sure we were on the same page. I was receiving some atypical questions like, okay, what is the required character limit for usernames? What is the minimum image resolution for the thumbnails? What to display for the video file and how payment process works? And the first thought that came in my mind was, guys, sorry, I don't know. Uh, but at certain point of time, I realized that I understanding the app architecture and staying informed about most technical nuances was a must for me. I had to know and give answer to most questions, okay, excluding very specific development related ones. And one takeaway and some advice for those who facing challenges within a team where everyone seems to be working in their own universe and where there is a lack of documentation is to communicate with your team members as frequently as possible. So my advice to you guys to respond promptly on Slack. Do not rely on detailed and extensive Figma specifications to convey your ideas. Based on my experience, even though my specifications contain numerous connectors and commands, I don't hesitate to provide verbal explanation of my ideas. And from my experience, the more explicit and comprehensive my verbal descriptions, the more accurately features will be developed. So the team members and communication is the key. I've also learned that when I present my design internally in the team, for developers and stakeholders, I receive a barrage of questions. It's inevitable. But if I answer most of these questions and new questions continue, so this is a clear signal to me that my mockups not quite intuitive, and I need to refine my designs, especially if we are talking about design features that are dedicated to the broad audience, to the regular users on the market. So it means that I need to find the more optimal solution and to make design more intuitive. Of course, we need to touch some exceptions. So there are some features that include some non-trivial logic. So let's consider them as exception. But broadly speaking, you can use opinion of your team members as a compass on the path. And another naming for this, proper naming in the field, is dog fooding. Another thing that worth mentioning here is the user research and testing, at least usability testing. I understood that earlier I had started testing my hypothesis, the fewer changes and refactoring I'd have to implement. We were about to release a completely new product on the market and didn't conduct any research. It was significant oversight we allowed to happen, but I'm not gonna lie, it happened just for objective reasons, because of the time constraints, because of the reliance on the authority of the client, who supposedly knew better than anyone what they wanted, and the lack of team members. But we did our best within a given working time. So it was another teaching moment, and the lesson from the situation is to practice testing as early as possible. My advice to try to appeal to a manager and propagate the need of having research in a project. And as a convincing argument, guys, you can use something like having research in the project will allow potentially save time and budget on inevitable future refactoring. So what I'm certain about startups, I came to understand that the level of uncertainty in startup is immense. Uh, it feels like being stuck in a time loop where some things remain the same, remain constant day by day, but requirements, ideas, approaches are constantly changing. We don't know how this project will ultimately turn out, but everyone is doing their best. And another aspect of startup is the unique development experience. Every development process is unique, and especially when startup idea is quite unique on the market, where there is no direct competitors you can use as a reference or pivot point for your inspiration. So basically, my opinion, so there is no holy grail for universally successful startup. Instead, my team members and me and I create the great holy grail for our specific project. So drawbacks of working in startup is quite obvious. I am a first-hand witness of fast-paced and changeable environment of startup. What was relevant yesterday might be outdated today. The development process is so fast, so sometimes I even was unable to provide a proper solution. It's continuous process of generating ideas. Sometimes there is no time to conduct proper A/B testing. Features must be delivered ASAP. And of course, it requires dedicating more than typical 8 work day, and it can be hurtful for the work-life balance. And special for me, last but not least, there is no immediate feedback to prove whether designer hypothesis is valid or it's already failed. Just designer hasn't knew about it yet. So with all that in mind, you might ask, is it worth it? Well, if constant changes frighten you, my advice, no, absolutely no. Keep away from startups. But if constant changes don't frighten you, my answer is yes. And here is why. Working as a UX designer in a startup will help you grow faster. Why? Because the creativity of a designer becomes even more valuable in startup, and this just because of this vibe environment that startup gives. You have more responsibility, which leads in a greater engagement. And the variety of tasks is outstanding. Brainstorming ideas happens on daily basis. You couldn't even imagine that and dream about this. And as a result, professional growth is inevitable. So guys, if my key takeaways, like I mentioned a moment ago, is thinking about companies strategically, listening to your team members, communication, practicing pitching ideas. Don't work for you for some reasons. Don't worry. I have second option for you. So if you feel stuck and sleep deprived, I recommend you to read outstanding, profound source of knowledge for every designer is their book about face, the essentials of interaction design by Alan Cooper and his colleagues. Uh, it's amazing book, and you will find the answers on this book on your most bothersome questions. One thing that I do like about this book, it's very practical. You will find answers on your practical questions, not abstract one. So overall, working as a UX designer in startup offers a dynamic and challenging experience. I hope you will find my story useful. Stay strong and never give up. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Natalia, for your presentation. It was very exciting and so action-packed. And another shout out to you as the master of memes and GIF images, because I enjoyed every slide. Thank you so much. It was so interesting to watch and so interesting and exciting to listen. Guys, please remember that you have like one-of-a-kind opportunity to ask your questions about the presentation, about Natalia's experience of switching from big project to startup in our chat. please write your questions and send them to our chat, and I'm going to read them aloud to Natalia, and she's going to answer them right away. And if you got everything right from the start and you don't have any questions, take some time to follow us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, even GitHub or LinkedIn, and of course on YouTube here. Press that subscribe button in order to keep up to date with all the updates and see the newest DX Tech Talk talks. And while you're writing your wonderful questions in the chat, I have a question actually. I am not a designer, but I understand that designers design things and they work with the expectations of the audience and they try to create products and make them look aesthetically pleasing and useful and understandable, right? While working at a startup, you happen to be not only the designer, but also a business analyst, a speaker, a presenter, and you combine so many other roles, and it seems very, very stressful. And what concerned me a lot is that your work-life balance was a little bit in danger because of the uncertainty that you faced. What would you recommend to people who work in that uncertainty, and what should they do to keep work-life balance, or at least keep their health in place? What would you recommend?
Yeah, it's challenging, it's stressful work, I'm not gonna lie. So my advice, my answer could sound boring, but actually the most boring things are the most useful one. They move you to the way you where you want to be, towards your goal. So my advice to care about yourself and to care about your 10,000 steps daily, about your 8 hours sleep per day. So be careful with your body. Treat yourself with love and all good positive vibes with what you have.
Well, as boring as it seems, this is like the essential thing that you can ever advise to any human being, I guess. It doesn't matter what you do, and it doesn't matter how hard you work, you always have to treat yourself with love and care. And although we've all heard it on Instagram from bloggers and from books and general practitioners that we visit regularly, that we need to take care of our health and of our bodies. And it is true, guys. Please take care of yourself in order to face the uncertainty of working at a startup as well. But in general, it's also a very good advice. And
Yeah.
we have, excuse me, Natalia,
Yeah,
please go on.
I just want to say this is such a common knowledge, nothing special. Everybody knows this 10,000 and 8 hours sleeping. But fun part is that not everyone follows these simple ideas. It's not rocket science. Just do it. Start, finish your work day. Go to refresh your body, your mind, to stay creative.
Yes, guys. So from like general universal wisdom to more precise questions from our audience, we have one actually. Marina says that she doesn't work at a startup, but these tips sounded valid not only for a startup. And she thanks you, Natalia, very much. What other design methods or tricks can you advise for changeable projects?
So, in a nutshell, another design practices that you can find helpful is to work on your components and build your system through the components and variants, using the latest tools that Figma provided for us, and they're quite advanced. And I want to say that not for like not using them, it's not an optional anymore. We must, in order to face the fast changes in the project, in design systems, like we working with clients, and clients tend to change their ideas and minds pretty often. This is my example of my project and my experience here. And if you will keep your okay, let's be precise, not call this design system your UI kit, your components in your project are properly prepared, easily integratable, easily changeable. This is a key. So this is a, I don't know, like I think it's a, that will be enough. Other stuffs are manageable. Just to speed up your work, keep your components clean and properly prepared.
All right. I hope that answered your question, Marina. Thank you very much for your questions. And guys, we actually have time for another question. Nelly is asking, how did it feel going back to working for big established projects? What do you miss from the startup experience?
Yeah, just I'm not gonna lie, things we experience things in comparison. You know, we compare like our previous experience with newly gained. So I'm kind of a little missing this slow pace and predictable workflow. I know that I said at the very beginning that, oh, predictable workflow, boo, not interesting, you know, not trendy anymore. No, guys, sorry for those who are in large projects. Yeah, I understand your comfort, your like extended timeline where you have time to relax, to embrace all your knowledge, to research references on the internet just because you have time and your team and your project allows you to have it this flow. And this is of course pretty valuable.
All right. Thank you very much. I think this is I think it is going to be the last question for now. Guys, if you have questions for Natalia, if we have a little bit of time after the second presentation, we're going to address them as well. So please write your questions in the chat. And right now, it's time for me to present another speaker. Her name is Natalia Leonova. Natalia, how are you?
Hi, Maria. Hi, guys. Nice to hear and see and to imagine you all.
Yes, working with the imaginary audience is always exciting because actually you're talking to a piece of equipment right now, but still it is wonderful to have technologies developed at the level that we can talk to other people from the comfort of our homes. Guys, please write in the chat if you see and hear us well, and say a nice friendly wave to Natalia to cheer her up. I hope you're feeling wonderful today.
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, without further ado, I am presenting to you Natalia Leonova. She's business analyst with over 10 years of experience in the field, and she takes a special interest in communication processes. Natalia joined our Design Day meetup to share the best practices of working with requirements. Natalia, please share your presentation, and we're ready to start.
Thanks, Maria. Yes, hope you could see my screen. So let us start. So we will talk today a little bit about the requirements, and we will proceed with the topic of the design and requirements. And let me quick introduce myself again. So Maria did it well, but still a little bit more details about me. So I'm business analyst at dxMatch project. And as Maria mentioned, I'm communication theory fan, and I'm in love with foreign languages. And also I love fintech, so our domain, very much, because I find it very interesting. And what will we have for today in our agenda? We will have a quick theoretical introduction, so some theory topics about the requirements, about the different project types, because we already discussed startups today. And also we will discuss design and requirements, how we actually live together, and how we could have handle this uncertainty, how we could handle the documentation and the communication. And in the end, we'll have a couple of tips and tricks from the analyst perspective. And let us start with, I think, quite common and known picture of the development process. So we have a couple of steps, and today we will concentrate on the design because it's our main topic. But still, what I want to mention here, so analysis and design, they are very near. Actually, these steps could mixed up, and so we could have not the direct rows, and we could have so different processes, but just to have the common picture. And as we discussed today, as we could know from the story of Natalia, you could have a project without an analyst. And what does it mean for us? And let's have a quick look on the analysis process. So we know now how the development process looks like, and actually what is analysis. And the analysis also has a lot of steps, and they are quite different. And actually, these steps are not the only thing that could happen in the BA world, but it shows us that the process is quite complicated, and it has a lot of communication, and it has a lot of artifacts in the end, and it has analysis itself, and it's quite hard sometimes. And regarding the projects, we have an image of the startup because we discussed startup today, but what about the common picture of different types of projects? So we will have a look on the dxTechTalk example because we have our own product, and it's one type of projects. The second one is our different trading platforms. And so these trading platforms, it depends on the stakeholders, depends on the clients. And the last but not least, it's a kind of greenfield project. It means that the project is built from scratch. And actually, here's the point that Natalia mentioned. So here we could have this atmosphere of a startup because everything is brand new, everything is built from scratch, and we could collect the ideas, we could put everything together, and all requirements, all communications, all tools could be brand new. And here's this mystical atmosphere of everything new, and it's quite interesting. I think all projects are interesting, but so if we speak about startup is here. And now we will have a quick introduction in analysis because we are discussing today the analysis perspective. And what about the requirements? What about the documentation? So we could have different types of requirements, but if we try to do some common description for the requirements, so we could have business requirements, user requirements, and system requirements. And what is different here, it's the level of detalization, because usually business requirements are high level. We don't need a lot of details here. And if we go deeper to user requirements and system requirements, they become more technical, more detailed. And so what does it mean for us? It means that it's quite complex. And here we have issues, here we have a lot of questions and a lot of uncertainty. And going back to our picture, that we don't have an analyst, we don't have a special person, we don't have a role of analyst who is responsible for all these details. And actually, we could face two things, and they sound quite different, but actually they're similar from the problematic point of view. We have too many information. So because we have a very active stakeholder, a lot of communication, a lot of details, and a lot of uncertainty. Or another thing, that we have too little information because it's not enough. It's not enough for us to develop something, to understand the workflow, to understand the plans of our project. And from my perspective, both of these problems are so no good. It's not okay for us. And how can we deal with the documentation and the requirements and with design, actually, because design is our topic for today. And as Natalia mentioned in her talk, usually analyst and designer, they are working together, and analyst provides requirements to the design team. But remember that we don't have an analyst, we don't have this role, and what they could actually do. And let's have a look on some tips that will be helpful to reduce the uncertainty and to help us to handle this work with documentation and requirements. And tip one is to take a whole team approach. And what does it mean? It means that we should do the analysis work visible. So we could have one person, as for example, as Natalia was in her project, who is responsible for the communication with the customer, or we could have separation for the documentation and communication task. But the most important thing here is that all team members should be involved in the process, and everyone should have the understanding of the process and actually how we communicate and how we work with the requirements and how we communicate with the customer. So who is responsible for the communication or for follow-ups, for going to calls and so on. Tip number 2 is to minimize work in progress features. It refers to the agile approach. I think you all know what is agile, and it's just the software methodology. And what does it mean for us? We should focus on our backlog, and we should focus on the tasks that we are taking, because it's quite a common idea, nothing new here. But so please, guys, don't take too much tasks, because it's complicated, and it's just could be complicated not only from the processes flow, not only from the common approach, but it just stops our work and stops our work with requirements. And also it could be hard with proceeding with common processes and also with life cycle in our product and projects. Tip number 3. Communication, my favorite part. And actually, it's also quite clear and understandable that everything should be discussed. There are no stupid questions, but still, just a reminder. Please ask questions when something is not clear. And in case there's no details, I don't know, from customer's point of view, from technical point of view, just ask. And I think, as we all know, direct meetings and direct communication is always better. It's just better than have a couple of calls or Zoom meetings. So if it's possible to communicate directly, just do it. Tip number 4, again, about backlog, about tasks, and actually about the process. So be prepared. So your backlog should be prepared for the plannings. You should have all standard process, not only plannings, but retrospectives, just for discussion what is wrong. And as we already mentioned, everyone in your team should have a common understanding of the project, of the direction or of the plans. And it's not only about the process, it's also about the responsibilities of our people, because in case you don't know so who is responsible for what, it makes our process not so good. Sorry, I have a cat here. And tip number 5, and regarding about the process itself, don't forget about the review, don't forget about demos and other parts of the development process, of the agile approach, because you should have all meetings planned. So review meetings, demos, and actually just please not forget to collect feedback, because it's an essential part of our work. And all these steps will be quite helpful to ensure that the process is fine, that everyone is clear, not only with requirements, not only with his or her part of job, but the atmosphere and the project itself, it will be more vital. And to have it on the list, I prepared a checklist. So I think all the steps, they are not quite new. It's not so brand new idea, but still, in case we will try to follow it, not only in the story of requirements, but just in all projects and in all processes, it will be just a little bit easier. And again, imagine, so you have a project without analyst, and yes, it could be a little bit complicated. And so, as we know from Natalia's talk, it could be quite weird sometimes. And actually, in the very beginning, when everything is unclear, it will slow you down. But we have some tips that could be helpful, and there are a lot of possibilities to make the process better. So we could do our best. And in case, in case you are just a little bit worried about the requirements and documentation and the design, and just remember that you should be sure that everyone in your team understands the details, and you as designer, you are cleared with your overall picture and with your task. And so technical guys, so developers and QAs are focused on their task, and so everything is fine. And hope that these tips were so quite useful for you. And again, so what about takeaways? As discussed, communication, I think we discussed communication a lot today. And again, so discuss everything, ask questions, and make your work with the requirements and the documentation and the analysis that analyzes itself visible. And in case you don't have the clear process, so try to discuss it with the team and try to make it clearer, better, and just follow some common approaches. There are quite a lot, so ideas for development processes, and I hope it will be also helpful. And just trust your team, and everything will be fine. And I think the last advice from me, I prepared a couple of useful links. It's about the books. Some of them are from BA perspective, some of them are just common about the approaches, and some of them are about the design and requirements. So I found everything. I like books, I like languages, so I found all these books quite interesting. And thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Natalia, for such a wonderful and also very well illustrated presentation. I am very, very grateful. I've had so much fun. And yes, guys, I remind you that you can ask your questions in our chat. and we'll be glad to answer your questions about Natalia Leonova's presentation about the requirements, or the previous presentation, if you remember something and want to ask Natalia Ilyina as well. So while we're waiting for the others to make up their wonderful questions, I actually have a question myself. I saw one essential point on your presentation about the importance of direct communications. And I've been working in IT for more than 7 years already. And the only thing I know about the developers for sure is that they hate Zoom meetings and that they hate talking in general. I know this is a stereotype, and not all the developers or members of the research and development team resent the communication itself, but I see the trend. And the phrase, "this meeting could have been an email," it wasn't born without any reasoning. So my question to you is, how would you solve this contradiction and this problem? Like, how, in other words, how to make developers love Zoom meetings?
Thanks, Maria. It's an amazing question. Actually, the answer is quite easy. It's just explain that you will save your time and their time, and just so prepare some pros and cons. And pros are time saving, because to speak directly 5 or 10 minutes, it's just more helpful from my perspective than trying to organize Zoom meetings, because you need to write in the chat, then you need to find a time in your calendar, and it just complicated. And in case you have an opportunity to go directly, I don't know, somewhere in the office and to talk, it would be just easier for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I am going to try and apply this advice in practice and see if it works. And yes, we have a couple of questions from the chat. The first one is from Ramon Faragala. Natalia, how and where do you store the requirements? Quite an easy question, but yeah.
Yes, so thanks for the question. So we have different approaches, because I think the most common one is to store the requirements in Confluence, because it's just the Atlassian stack, and I think a lot of companies use Confluence, Jira, and so on. And the second option is to store requirements. So it's just not about us, but just in common, to store requirements in other sources. For example, Notion, it's quite popular now, or separate, a little bit more technical approach. So documentation as a code. You could have the code itself, the code from the developers, and the documentation together. So a little bit tricky, but still possible. So there are a lot of different ways how we actually could do it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. I hope, Raman, that you are satisfied with the answer that Natalia gave you. And I would like to ask Natalia Ilyina to get back to our screens, because we have a question for her. Natalia, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have a question for you, actually. I am sorry in advance if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Mauleus. Please tell me if I effed it up. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. And one more question from me. In such fast-paced environment like startups, how do you handle feedback/requests from your supervisor that we need to work faster?
Well, it's a very tricky question. So I'll answer that first we need to understand the reason. So clients, they have reasons. They cannot just ask something with no reason, with no arguments. And we need to be really express some empathy towards their requirements, requests, and their feelings. If it's a startup, it has limited budget, it's quite a risky project, and we kind of should put them ourselves into their shoes first and understand what is the nature of this ask. It's just someone who wants to limitate the team sources, so just to cut the budget and get the same result, like successfully write start the project. Well, it's not reasonable, and this is where communications skills comes into game, in order to help you understand the client's feelings and to share our situation. Are we capable? Are we not capable? How we can maintain the situation? We can speed up, of course, but it has some. It requires some sources from us, of course, maybe to invite more team members, maybe to take more hours for implementation process, and so on and so forth. So there is no one simple answer of this. It's all individual case related thing.
Well, yeah. Even from my perspective, although I'm not a designer and I've never worked in the startup, from what you told us, I understand that being adaptable and flexible to constant change is stressful in itself. And when you're required to work faster in these circumstances, I guess it is going to double the stress up, and you have to find out different ways of working these circumstances around. So yeah, this is a very, very complicated question, but we really hope that we answered it. And actually, I don't see any more questions in the chat, and we are reaching the point when the time is up. So thank you very much for joining us today for dxTechTalk. We are happy to share our knowledge with you, and we really hope that the presentations that we've had were helpful. I thank you from my heart, all of our speakers, Natalia and Natalia. Thank you very much for bringing your wonderful knowledge to the table, and your expertise is going to enrich our own expertise at some point. And yes, please follow us on social media, follow us here on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, and watch all the videos about our expertise in fintech. We're not talking only about the design. We have different topics like backend, front-end development, QA, and so many other different things. So please be our guest on YouTube and also on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and other social platforms that you see on your screen. Thank you so much. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for tonight. We're wishing you a wonderful evening, and yeah, have a great end of the week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Maria.
Thank
Bye.
you.